Hi, I'm Bonnie Rose,
Hi, I'm Stephen S. Miller, aka Mama Rose.
and we're here talking with the Roses.
With our guest, Kathleen Gati. Welcome to the show, Kathleen, or should I say, Dr. Obrecht.
Oh, you say it so well. Dr. Obrecht is good. I don't know. Am I here as Kathleen or as Dr. Obrecht? I'm happy to be both, or,
Well,
get
Kathleen, I just had to throw in your character on General Hospital, of course.
Well, you can do whatever you please because you're going to be talking with us today. So, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Hello. So, you are and here we go, two-time Emmy nominee for Outstanding Actress, winner of 7 Best Actress Awards. You were born and raised in Canada. Your father, a symphony conductor, your mother, an opera singer. You started acting at the age of 3. Your parents are Hungarian immigrants. You were surrounded by the arts growing up. Who, if you had a spotlight, gave you your inspiration, and who still inspires you today?
Um, because I grew up with classical music, the music, just hearing it was just like I needed to do something with it. And honestly, the moment that I was sparked was I saw when I was 3 years old on a little white black and white television. I'm dating myself. It was this little tiny television, and there was Galina Ulanova, who was the prima ballerina of the Bolshoi Ballet. And this had been, I guess, was filmed several years earlier. But I saw this, and she was dancing Giselle. And I'm 3, and I'm looking at this, and I'm going, that's what I want to do. And I heard somebody tell me years ago that that first memory that you have of, that first important memory is usually the career path you choose. I don't know if that works for you guys, but I've talked to a lot of people, and it seems to be. But that was the moment that I was just like, that's what I wanted. And I just wanted to dance, because it was like I heard the music, it was like I needed to express it. And then I studied ballet for years and years. That was my dream, was to be a prima ballerina in the Bolshoi. And I studied for years. I had a lot of challenges. I was never the right body shape. I wasn't slim enough. I wasn't this enough. I was, it's all the usual, not enough, not enough. This. So, anyways, but I did dance, and I did work towards that. And my mother was like, bless her heart, she was like, thanks, Mom. She was like, you know what? Well, if you want to go to my, mothers, if you want to, dance in the Bolshoi, and she was probably her, my dad were going, this girl never. But that was my dream, to dance, and so that's what I pursued for years and years and years. Besides acting in high school and this and that. But she said, you know what, darling, you really should study Russian, because in Russia, they speak Russian. And if you're going to go to the Bolshoi, you might as well, you better learn to speak Russian. So again, bless her heart, I studied Russian at the University of Washington while I was studying with the First Chamber Dance Company, and working towards that, and also singing and studying acting. Because as a friend of mine, my dear roommate, said to me years ago, she said, you're very well rounded, but I was always like rounder than the other dancers, somebody else. But she meant, because also, and we used to laugh about that, to this day we still laugh about it. So I studied Russian, but honestly, because I studied Russian, that was the stepping stone into Hollywood. Because when I came here at the age of 40, they were like, what are you doing in Hollywood? You're 40. We don't care about you. Well, I studied in New York for 10 years, and I've worked hard, and I, did a lot of theater, 167 plays. I mean, just tons of stuff in New York. And then I was coming out to LA. I was in All My Children for a few moments. I was on a couple of months back in 89, 90. And I was heading here because they were like, oh, we want you in Hollywood. This is, got a lot of calls and people were interested. Turns out my mother was terminally ill. Life happens. So I went back to Canada for about a year. She passed away, and my life was over. It's like, without my mom, I'm nothing. But anyway, so I called up Hollywood like a year later. I'm like, okay, my mother passed away. I'm finished, I'm doing everything. And they're like, who are you? They literally, boom, forgot that I had this, whatever I did in New York, they forgot everything. So I had to start all over, and I didn't quite know what to do. So I went to Hungary for 2 months. It's a roundabout story, but I went to Hungary for 2 months and ended up staying for 6 years. That's my roots. I was doing a film there with Brad Dourif called Diary of Hurdy-Gurdy Man. And I had done a film in Hungary the previous year. I used to go, I still go now, I have a home there, but I used to go every so often to visit, do a film or something. And while I was there for the 2 months, I won Hungary's Best Supporting Actress Awards, kind of like the film and television critics, like the Golden Globe. And all of a sudden, I was just offered all these beautiful roles, and to me, very meaningful because they're my history, my parents, and the culture, and the history, and the war, and the revolution, and all these things that spoke to me. So I was like, you know what? I'm a happy camper. I can stay here for the rest of my life and work because that's what I love, to express myself. And the music, actually going back to that, the music, it was, I wasn't able to do it through dance, but I found that through theater and through words and acting, that you can express all those emotions. So there's always a way, and I want to talk about this, to reinvent yourself. There's always a way to change the path while being honest to your dreams. Anyway, I'm just getting around to it. So I always come back, my husband's like, you talk all over the place. I said, I know, but I somehow get back to the beginning. So I was just saying, with the Russian, long story, so I went to Hungary. I spent 6 years there, and then communism ended. Everything changed over there, so there was no work. The film industry died, everything. So I came back. I was like, you know what? I'm 40. Let's go back to Hollywood, give it a second shot. And I came back to Hollywood, and they were like, who are you? You're too old. We don't give a shit, etc. Luckily, because of the Russian, I'm backtracking, that my
But
mother told me
age,
to
race,
study, that was my foot into the door, because there weren't that many people who could do a Russian accent, who could speak Russian. And then I was on 24 and brother. Anyway, I did a whole bunch of Russian speaking roles and Russian accented roles. Now everyone does sort of a Russian accent. It's no big deal. But at the time it was a big deal, for 20 years ago. So that's my whole story, but that kind of circled around. And
which
and then accents is my thing. Sorry, go ahead.
no, which is great because it led us into the next question about, I mean, you already discussed some of it about your longevity, because after high school you moved to New York, as you said, and you pursued your dream, where you said you performed, you said 164 plays, and then you were invited, you said, to Hungary, and you worked there for 6 years and did very, very well, and you've been working nonstop. And this is really important as a woman, to say that at the age of 40, which is something that I didn't have in my notes, but at the age of 40, you really came back to Hollywood, which so many people say, oh, it's over, but it's not over. I mean, the fear of
Started.
being Mary Jane, and of course, hello, General Hospital. I mean, oh my God. So talk to us. What is the secret for your longevity and the popularity? Because so many women say, oh, it's over at 40, but yet it's not. Because what is your secret? I mean, as you said, you hit on, you're Russian, or you're this, or you could do that, because you keep turning it, you keep focusing and moving forward. What would be, talk to us, what would be the spotlight?
I think you just have, I hate to use that word, keep reinventing yourself, but it's like, first of all, who's God? Who is the person that, you or me, or that person over there that works at this show or that show that says, you're not right for us, you're too old. First of all, I have a lot of faith in myself, faith in my dreams, faith in God, in the universe, that there's a path for everybody. It isn't gonna, I want to be prima ballerina. Listen, by the age of 40, I would have been retired and gone back to teaching, or, something else that maybe wouldn't have been my first love. But because I get to act and I get to do it, I think the main thing is, we're jumping ahead, but I think studying, having the foundation. I studied in New York. I mean, bless you guys for, being there. New York, to me, at the time when I went from ballets, from Seattle to New York, I could have gone to LA. And it was like, should I go to LA? I'm young, pretty young, blonde girl, blonde hair. Should I go to LA and try to make it without much training, just from dance? So I had no real theatrical training. Or should I stay in New York, get solid training, and then, and so I did, but I ended up spending almost 10 years. I feel like I should have had a doctor's medical degree, PhD. I studied with everyone, Turtle Bay and HB Studio and anybody and everybody, and did tons of theater for free, and Broadway, off Broadway, the gamut, everything. And so I feel like I have the solid training, and I have my dreams. And it's like, I want to act. I want, and it doesn't mean just because you want it, it's going to happen. But there's so much work that has gone into getting the little that I've gotten, the big that I've gotten. So much work has gone into it. I never give up. My husband's like, you are so tenacious. I'm like, this is what I do. I'm an actor, actress, actor, whatever it is. It's like I have, to this day, I'm like, if I have time, I'll send emails to casting people. Hi, I loved your last thing. I'd love to work with you. Or remember we worked together and blah, blah. I'm still doing it like a beginner actor. I'm still promoting myself, shameless self-promotion. It's a constant, and it's not always that I contacted this casting person, they'll think about me. I think the fact that you are telling the universe that you are serious, you are determined, you work hard, and you have a goals, and and you put in the effort somehow. You put in the effort this way, maybe a little door opens this way, a little window, whatever. But it's like, I think just because I don't give up, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to work every day. Thankfully, I've been making a living for 40 years as an actor, but it's challenging. I mean, even today, and I'm grateful. I'm a freelance actor. I'm not on contract. I'm grateful when they call me. Every time they call me, it's like, great. And then and I don't hear for months. I'm like, okay, so then I'll do something else, or I'll contact new people, or I do audiobooks. I narrate audiobooks. So when I'm not acting on camera, I have my own studio. I record for Brilliance and um, Penguin Random House, different companies, Audible. So I do also different, things like that. I'm writing a cookbook. I have a cooking show, so I try to keep relevant, but for me, I need to stay creative. I
Mhm.
have to do something or I go crazy. It's like, if I have nothing, I'll go in the kitchen. I'm like, I can make up a recipe. I had a restaurant and a cookie business in Hungary, in Budapest for, a couple of years while I was there. And it's like, okay, well, let's see, I have nothing. I have no acting job and I don't feel like writing because I can't sit on I have, what is it? Spielches,
Yeah.
I had those things in your buttski that they call me Mexican jumping beans. I need energy. So, it's like I'll get up and I'll create a recipe, or I'll try a recipe for the 10th time in my cookbook that I'm not quite, so I need to constantly keep myself creative. My husband's like, you've got to learn to mellow out. I'm like, yeah, I do. I think it's important and I'm working on that. That's like then but I'm not good. I can't sit still. I try to meditate and I'm like, dun, 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 I got to do this. So I think just to stay relevant, stay busy, find something that makes you really happy and work your ass off. There are no shortcuts. I can't tell you how many people write to me. Can you tell me how to become a soap star? I get these emails, I get Twitter and Facebook. I'm like, first of all, I'm not a star. Some people know me. It's lovely and I'm grateful for it. I'm a working actor. That's what I do. I'm grateful to say I'm a working actor like you guys. It's like, how hard it is. They don't give it easy. They don't give it free. And this is not the success that I dreamt about, but honestly, in regards to the way the crazy world is and with the people with the huge success, the way they're exposed and it's insanity. I'm grateful for the recognition at Trader Joe's where I'm like sampling something and someone comes up, I love you on General Hospital. I'm like, thank you, thank you.
David is one of your biggest fans.
Yes. No, it's so funny that we're talking about theater because your performance as the MC at the Nurses Ball
uh,
on General Hospital, and I recently just performed Cabaret virtually
you
in
really
London.
the best
So it's fabulous.
in
But
London.
yes, it was virtually in London. What
Oh,
is your most favorite theatrical moment in your career?
that's the one. That's the one. I mean, I've done some plays and there's those magical moments. You guys know that when the audience is there in your hand and you're like, you're just pulling them in, and there's just some beautiful that's what do they call it, that synergy, between the audience and you, and you're breathing together and you're carrying them with you, and they feel your soul and they feel your pain, and it's a beautiful. I've had some of those moments over the years, but when I got to sing and dance and act on television for like 4 million people doing cabaret. And all those years I've studied musical theater, ballet, acting for you. It's like it all culminated in like a 3-minute moment of, or 4 minute, whatever it was. It was just, I'll never forget that. I will always be grateful for that moment, because they gave me 8 Broadway dancers. And I'm like, they made me look good. These 4 gorgeous girls and 4 gorgeous guys and dressed sexy. I'm like, and I got to be like all goofy and excited. And it was really me. It wasn't much acting there, but I got to sing and dance and act. And it was just, I was so grateful to the show for giving me that opportunity. It happens once in a lifetime. So it was really cool. And there's so many actors on the show, and, everybody wants to sing and dance, do their thing. Cause we're all like, do dramatic soap opera work.
Mhm.
You killed me. No, I love you. I hate you. All that. It's like, it's very staple kind of diet of soap stuff. So this was, I got to be out there, was just such joy. So that's my moment.
Show stopping. I mean, it stole the show, and you're such an inspiration to so many with all that you've done. But I must ask,
Thank you.
what advice would you give to someone who's just starting out in the industry?
You know what? A bunch of things. Study. Number one, study, and then study some more. Study with everybody. Go to, one of the things that's kind of interesting, I wanted to go to Juilliard. I wanted to be, because I heard that if you go to Juilliard, you not only get the best training, but there's 10 agents with contracts when you come out saying, we want to sign you for, to represent you. Well, my parents were like, we're not paying. We don't have the money, and that's not going to happen. So I struggled to, study a little bit here, and I scraped together some money and studied at this school and that school. And I was really angry about that and very disappointed that that didn't happen. But honestly, here we go, 40 years later or 30 years later, I have worked together with people on General Hospital, the people I worked together on Fear the Walking Dead, Flight 462. They got to go to Juilliard. I didn't. We're at the same point in our careers. So there's no, exactly. So it's like, you know what? Work, study, don't blame your mommy or daddy they did or didn't give you. You fix your path. You find your way. Don't look at what anybody else is doing. Don't be jealous. Like a horse when they're doing a horse race, they have the blinders on. That's what I tell myself all the time, because it's hard not to go, but I want to be, Bette Midler, or I wouldn't, it's like one of my favorite people. You're with her. I'm like, oh my God, I love her. It's like there are people that I've wanted to be, in Lucille Ball and Carol Burnett. They inspired me. These people, find people that inspire you, find out how they did it, read their books, read their autobiographies or biographies. How did they get there? No one's had an easy path. And if they say that it was easy, it's bullshit. It's not true. This career, right?
Absolutely. So as busy as you are, and I know you have something cooking in the kitchen, Kathleen in the kitchen, talk to us about anything that's upcoming.
I'm writing a cookbook called My Life in Recipes, because I feel like and I don't know when it's going to come out, because in between working and other stuff, and testing recipes over and over. So that's a work in progress, because it's my story of my life and different recipes and what happened over the years. But also, I have a cooking show. It's called Kathleen in the Kitchen. I'm doing I'll have one coming up in July, just my third one. And it's usually a feast. I did a Hungarian feast, and it was a Lebanese feast. Then I did share some stuff, because I had a restaurant and a wholesale cookie business in Europe. So I used a lot of the stuff that I had in the restaurant, things that I love, things from my mother's, cooking, and my maternal side, my dad's side. My dad was a great cook. Turns out, until my mother passed away, I didn't know my dad was such a great cook. I was like, Dad, who knew you were such a good cook? Why didn't you cook? He goes, I taught your mother how to cook. I'm like, you're kidding. So I have this. It's called Kathleen in the Kitchen. FantasyEventsInc.com. That's where you can get all the information to keep abreast of when my next shows are. www.fantasyeventsincc.com. I think this is the correct thing. And then my cookbook's coming out. I'm doing more work on General Hospital as needed. Again, every time I get a script, it could be my last one. It's been 9 years, about 420 episodes. It could be, you never know. It's just kind of, you take it as it comes. And just getting back to it, just, work your butt off, study, work, have a goal. Don't be afraid to reinvent yourself. If it doesn't work out the career you wanted, try to think of something else that you want to do, because maybe you'll be even happier doing that. So just don't give up. Just, forge on and live your dreams, live your life as much as you can, as you want to. And whatever's given, it's like, I'd love to be Meryl Streep, but that's not what's given. So I'm grateful. And they say, bloom where you are planted. So this is what you have. My mother always said, if you play that, if you're being a secretary and or a waitress, which I've done tons of, and secretary, she said, pretend that's a role and do the best you can. Play your heart out as a secretary or as a waitress, whatever it is in real life you're doing, or on stage or camera. Always give 200%. If you're doing a free student film, 200%. If you're getting paid a couple $1,000 for a job, 200% or 1,000%. Always give your best, no matter what, because the person who is serving the coffee on Spielberg's film might be the next Spielberg. So it isn't because you have ulterior motives. That's the way you should live your life. Always do your best. Always give your best.
Thank you so much, Stephen and I cannot thank you enough for being on the show. Kathleen Gati, thank you.
Thank you for having me, and all the best to you guys. I'm really impressed with you guys' stuff, and I'm going to keep watch out for your stuff too. And I hope I get to see you on stage soon.
Yes,
Thank you.
definitely.
All
Thank you.
Yes. Thanks so much.
You have been talking with the Roses.
See you next time.